Ravens fans, I'm so excited to be joined by new offensive coordinator Todd Monken. Todd, first of all, congratulations. Welcome to Baltimore.
Appreciate it.
How's it going getting settled in after first few days on the job here?
Good. It's been great. Just working through staff and then getting my feet wet in terms of trying to take the best of what was done in the past in terms of power run game, getting after people, and then incorporating some of the things that I've done in the past. It's been fun.
Now, for you, when you go through this process where you're interviewing with the Ravens, and there's reportedly a lot of interest from you after helping Georgia win 2 straight national championships, what made you feel like this team, this opportunity was the right fit for you?
Great question. Probably very similar to how I felt about going to Georgia when I did, which was, okay, a culture that's already set, team that's really good on defense. So what can you do to potentially go there and build on what they had done previously offensively? And that was probably one of the biggest things, when you talk about stability as a head coach, culture, organization. That was probably the most intriguing thing of anything.
So when I've looked back through your career and the different places you've been, there's been a lot of different systems that you've run. It's not just one specific system where that's the only thing that you've done. It's been pass heavy at times. It's been featuring the tight end, balanced. So as you look at the team here, what's your expectation for what this offense and what this system will look like?
Well, you're right. I've been through a lot of systems, with different coaches and their beliefs, in terms of how you attack people, which has been really good. I'm a byproduct of being around really good coaches and really good players that you learn a lot from, and I've learned a lot from both. And the system starts with having really good players. Okay, that's a start. You got really good players, that at least gives you a chance. And then trying to figure out, you have to have an identity. I mean, you cannot control the game if you can't run the football. You can't. You absolutely, the physicality of your team, and then everything comes from there. Now, there's varying ways of doing that. Physicality doesn't have to mean that you are in 13 personnel or you have a fullback in the game. That's a part of it, that's for sure. But it also is physicality, whether you're in 1 back or 2 back, and the ability to be able to push the ball down the field. Because no matter what level you're at, the way you win is don't turn it over, be explosive, score touchdowns in the red zone, be good on 3rd downs, don't have lost yardage plays, and if you have a quarterback that can make off-scheduled plays. That's where it starts, whether you're in 2 back, 3 back, no back. Those are all the same parameters when you go from an analytics standpoint. So in my mind, how do we get really elite at those categories that really matter?
So in talking with people over the last week since the move was announced, it seems like one common thread throughout your career is that you cater things around to the players that you have. You kind of just talked about, putting the players in position to be successful, and obviously there's no player more dynamic than Lamar Jackson at the quarterback position. Just how excited are you for building an offense around him and his strengths?
It's obvious looking at him play the game of, he's an electric player, tremendous skill set. The thing I probably think most of all of it, when you say like what excites you the most, what excites me is when you hear what the players say about your quarterback. And when they say about complimentary things about that player in terms of wanting him as a teammate, wanting him to lead this team, those are positives when you're talking about, okay, our success. The player's belief. Just like you'd want that same belief in them saying the same thing about Coach Harbaugh. Just like you'd want them to say the same thing about me. That you want, if you interviewed guys at Georgia, I'd hope they would say certain things about me. If they didn't, that would suck.
Right. It seems like wherever you've been, you've really maximized the ability and the potential of that quarterback position. I mean, I look at Stetson Bennett the last few years, and obviously his story is well documented, going from a walk-on to a Heisman Trophy finalist. What do you think is the key in maximizing the abilities of the quarterback position?
Well, again, I think that in a lot of ways, yes, Stetson was initially a walk-on, but that after you've been there 6 years, okay, and you're 25 years old, we're way beyond that now. He's a good player. He's a really good player. And eventually they just kept using that like as if, boy, we had some other walk-ons that aren't going to get to that. That's unfair to just classify him in that because he was a really good player. And so I do think that you have to play to the strengths of the quarterback and your team. And I think you have to make it simple enough to where they can play fast. Now, easier said than done, And like I said, you have to have a great staff that builds what you want to do philosophically around those players. And then you have complete buy-in. And then you have to start what you do really well and then how you attack people.
You mentioned the running game, and over the past few years, nobody's run the ball better than the Ravens in the NFL. How do you want to try to take what's in place and that success, that's been there on the ground, and then add on top of it and try to work on taking that passing game to a new level so that, those two pieces marry each other?
That is the challenge for sure, is marrying up what's been done here in the past in terms of running the football and controlling the game. And obviously the number one object is to win, so that part of it. And yet maybe bringing things up, in terms of more up to speed, I guess, or what I'm used to, which is maybe a little more open sets, a little bit more space. What helps you with that? Space players, right? It's easy to say you want to be in space and you have guys hurt. You don't have the same guys, or you feel like your best personnel is maybe tightened down. But I think getting to that point where you use every blade of grass, all 53 and a third, use, the full length of the field. And again, everybody's going to say that. But that's what you try to do, is you try to create more space, utilizing space players. I think skill guys, when you do installs, I think I learned this once I got to the NFL, and I'm not saying I've always done an elite job at it, but when you install, they look at where their opportunities are going to be and where they're going to have a chance to make an impact on the game. Now, they have to earn that, but ultimately to me, balance is everybody's ability to touch the ball and be an impact. It's not run pass. It's really about them having to defend run and pass and personnel and plays, that you just don't have these two guys touch the ball. That happens, but you try to avoid that at all costs to be able to. And skill guys, you're going to get the most out of them if they know when their opportunities are going to come.
So in skill guys, a big topic throughout this entire offseason is going to be wide receiver, when we get to free agency and the draft. And that's certainly something, that the Ravens have talked about wanting to upgrade that position and kind of remake that room a little bit. Your background, you started your career as a wide receivers coach, earlier in your coaching career as you've risen up the ranks. What is it about trying to maximize the receiver position, and how do you go about, doing that with that spot?
Good question. I think first off, I'll just talk in just general, is that I think every player and every coach is always under construction. We are always learning and getting better. And I think we're in the development business. So any player that you get, you're fighting like hell to develop them and try to using what their elite trait is. You're always trying to find what that is. Where can they add value within a game plan? For instance, Wes Welker's with the Dolphins, catching 60 balls. They're a pro-style offense. He goes to New England. He's a 100-catch guy playing in the slot, Hall of Famer, right? Where can you find pieces that can play at an elite level of what you're asking them to do? For instance, any position's that way. You're not going to ask an elite punter to play out the left tackle. He has an elite trait, right? So where is your elite traits that you think can help you from a value? And then you're constantly trying to develop them to maximize their skill set. And then also they should always be trying to get to the upper level of their skill set. So I think that's one of the biggest things, is you control who ends up in the room and you coach the hell out of them to try and get the most out of them that you can. And you only know that when you get young players, is if you have a hard decision to make, that they came in as a player and then they hit free agency and there's people that want them. Like, you've got to the point where you have a hard decision to make. If you've gotten younger players and you haven't gotten them to that point and no one wants them, you haven't developed them. You haven't gotten to that point. That's the biggest compliment you can have, is you've developed younger players, because we're in the development business. College, we get 25, 30 scholarships now. You get a lot of the first round picks. You don't. You have to develop. The teams that have had the best rosters have done the best job of developing players.
And lastly, Todd, when the Ravens take the field this year, what do you want the identity of this offense to be?
Again, I've already said, I don't think you can control the game if you can't run the football. I just don't believe that. There are times a quarterback needs a smoke break. I just hand the ball off, right? I can comfortably just turn around, hand the ball off, and you can play football that way. But I would hope that we utilize the players that we have. All of our skilled players, give them opportunities when warranted. And they would hope that you would see the players enjoying playing in a system, that they enjoy that part of it. But as we all know, the joy's in winning. I mean, it's the locker room after the game. It's coach giving out game balls. That's why we do it. It's for the locker room afterwards of a mission accomplished with a group of men. And so that's the big part of it, is that's what it should look like in terms of controlling the game, utilizing all your skilled players, and don't ever forget, it's all about winning.
Well, we are excited. We can't wait. We're excited to have you here. Congratulations, and
Appreciate it.
thanks for joining us.
Yep, thank you.